Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Tersanjung the movie. Tersanjung the movie is an Indonesian romance movie, the third of its kind that I reviewed for this channel. I don't know what it is about Indonesian romance movies and why I enjoy them so much. They just seem to have this certain guilty pleasure cheese factor that seems to come in every Indonesian romance movie I watch, and this movie does have that factor in spades, but it doesn't always have it in the right places. The movie essentially focused on a girl named Yura and her two best friends, Ian and Oka, who are more or less just looking out for her as she's about to get ready to be arranged into a marriage with this guy named Bobby. There's a lot of plot details that the movie throws at you right at the beginning and you're just expected to digest it. So the short version is Bobby is marrying Yura because Yura's family owes Bobby's family a lot of money. And Bobby doesn't even really take the marriage all that seriously anyway. In fact, early on in the movie, he actually sexually assaults Yura, and it's not until Ian comes to the rescue in the middle of the attack whenever she's able to escape to safety, and from there, crap really hits the fan. A bunch of thugs come to Yura's house to try and take away furniture that actually belongs to Bobby's family, and they basically come to collect money, and then they're given a week after that to come up with the money, and it just throws a ton of drama in a short period of time. I was just like, what is happening here? And that's really the basic gist of the movie. There's a lot of dramatic plot points that happen constantly in the story. Anytime one thing happens, it's usually followed up with another thing a few minutes later, and it feels like the movie story is trying to one-up itself constantly. It doesn't really work in the same way as it would on a soap opera, for example, which is ironic considering that this movie is based on a soap opera. I haven't watched a soap opera in a really long time, mostly because I don't really enjoy watching them to begin with, but even from the ones I do remember watching, I remember that they would cover one plot point on one episode and they would expand on it across multiple episodes, whereas this movie tries to condense an entire soap opera into a 2-hour feature-length film, and there's just not enough time dedicated to it to try and cover each and every topic and scene that's examined before it moves on to another one. And on one hand, I do have to give the filmmakers credit for trying to squeeze an entire soap opera into a 2-hour feature-length film and trying to make it as entertaining as possible. I love that they had that ambition in place. But on the other hand, there were a few plot points that I felt weren't really expanded enough in great detail, and there were a few points that were just flat out unnecessary and didn't need to be included in the movie. I actually thought the movie was okay for at least the first 2 acts. Nothing really special, but nothing all that bad either. I think a lot of it is elevated due to the girl who plays Yura. I don't remember the actress's name, but she did a really good job in her performance. She's a very independent and free-spirited woman, but she also knows when to show appreciation for her family despite the fact that she holds a certain level of resentment to her stepmother due to the fact that she borrowed a lot of money from Bobby's family. She's an extremely dedicated student, she does well in school, but she drops out of school so that she can get a job and provide money for her family due to the fact that her father suffered from a stroke early on in the movie. And you can see the love and appreciation that she has for her father, as well as the inspiration that she takes from him, because she performs music quite a bit in the movie as well, especially when Ian and Oka open up their own noodle business. I don't know, I just thought Yura was adorable, intelligent, kind, and overall just a really well-rounded character. Obviously she has no intentions of marrying Bobby anymore due to the whole sexual assault that happened at the beginning, but then about halfway through the movie she starts a romance with her best friend Ian. And I felt the overall reason behind their romance was just really weird and kind of creepy to me. Ian decides that he's going to give a bunch of his family's money to Yura's family so that Yura's family can stop owing money to Bobby's family, but then she ends up feeling indebted to Ian's family, but then Ian says, no, don't worry about it, we won't consider it a debt. And then somehow she ends up being okay with it and decides, yeah, Ian's a nice guy, I'll fall in love with him. I was just like, what? And he says a really cringeworthy line in the middle of his whole spiel when he's confessing his love to Yura in the middle of the street. He says something like, don't worry, I won't hurt your feelings. And whenever he said that, I was just like, ugh. The movie does get happier after that part. I was actually surprised at how much more pleasant the overall mood in the story got after the whole negative vibe that was brought on with Bobby's family and being a bunch of thugs and the whole sexual assault that happened in the beginning. I was just really surprised at how much more positive it got, especially whenever Ian and Oka's noodle business started kicking off. That's when it got really joyful for me. The movie makes use of a few montages as well as musical intervals in between just to kind of transition between one scene and the next. And I just really liked how the overall structure of the story flowed, even if it didn't always make sense all the time. I like that Ian put a more positive spin on things in terms of Yura's romances with the male characters in this movie, but I absolutely hated how it ended. I won't spoil it for those who want to watch the movie, but it was completely unsatisfying to me. After Ian's angle is all said and done with, it ends up transitioning into another romantic angle, this time concerning the other best friend, Oka. The romance between Yura and Oka just didn't feel genuine to me. It didn't feel to me like the two characters were in love with each other, and the movie tries to rush everything that happens between the two within the last 15 minutes or so. It's just not enough time for us to get accommodated to them as a couple, if I can even consider them a couple. The movie is actually advertised as a love triangle, at least that's what I saw when I read the little blurb about it on Netflix. Now, I don't know if this movie knows what a love triangle is supposed to be, but after watching this movie, I can safely say that there's nothing in this movie that remotely resembles anything that I would see in a love triangle situation. Sure, Yura falls in love with more than one guy in the movie, but none of those guys are really competing against each other to win her affection, which is what I would think would be involved in a typical love triangle situation. It just seems kind of like false advertising in that respect. In fact, I remember looking at a poster for this movie before I watched it, and it shows Yura laying down with both Ian and Oka, and that led me to believe before watching the movie, I was like, oh, okay, well, they're both going to compete for Yura's affection. And after having seen this movie, I can safely say it is definitely not the case. I don't know where the love triangle is supposed to be, but it is definitely not in this movie. Actually, now that I think about it, there are a few things in the end that sort of hint toward a love triangle of sorts, but like I said, there's so many other dramatic plot points that are happening in the story that there's just not enough time dedicated to exploring that angle. So really, it may as well not even have been there. Overall, Tersanjung the movie is a pretty substandard romance movie. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would, but I didn't really like it all that much either. For me, Yura was the character that made this movie work. Had it not been for her, I probably would have stopped watching halfway through. If you're in the mood for multiple love stories being packed in more than one movie, and you don't mind having a bunch of dramatic filler being thrown all over the place, then you'll probably get some enjoyment out of this movie. For me, the movie becomes increasingly more off the rails and cliche as the story goes on, but it starts off decently enough and it has a positive vibe throughout, so overall, I think it's okay. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Tersanjung the movie. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Western drama, Concrete Cowboy. Bye bye!